All right. And just like that, we're live, man. We got Doug Rappoport in the house, man. The man, the myth, the legend from Oregon, as far as I remember. Is that true?
That's right. That's right. I'm living in Oregon. That's correct.
All right. How are you doing, Doug?
Okay, man. Where are you coming from?
I'm in Germany, located in Germany, Berlin to be precise. So capital, living the capital life, you know.
Cool.
Maybe we should get the first question right out of the way here, because this was a very frequently asked question on my Instagram. Was how do you guys know each other? It's just pretty funny actually, because so we get that out of the way. So we've been texting over the last couple months here and there over some videos here and there. I don't know. So for me, it was like this. I uploaded a reel, and then a couple hours later, I checked who liked it, and I saw your name on it. And I've been following for a long, long, long time because I know you from the YouTube videos and stuff. And I'm like, what? No. And then I check your profile, and it is actually Doug Rappoport. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy, man. Do you even remember why you were following me? Probably saw some reel or something.
Yeah, because you're a great player. You know, I like your content. You're a great player. I want to see whenever you're doing something. You know, I love it. So
No.
yeah,
Congrats, man. When you say that, man, I consider retiring right after this. Yeah.
I tell you the other thing that I really dig about your videos. This is kind of crazy, but you're left-handed, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so I mean, and you have these great guitars, like really cool vintage-looking guitars, and I know how hard it is to find really good left-handed guitars, you know. And but you have these great guitars, and they're left-handed. It's like wow, it's like kind of like a novelty, kind of seeing these really cool lefty guitars. So
it is true. How do you know how difficult it is as a right-handed person?
oh, you know, I know, I've been around a long time, brother. You know, I mean, I know a lot of left-handed guitar players, and all of them play right-handed guitars. And when they do find a good left-handed guitar, it's like, you know, you get a phone call, dude. Oh my God! I mean, it's hard enough to find a guitar, let alone one that's like really good. You know how it is. You can go to the store and look for Les Pauls, and you know, you can take 20 of them off the wall and find maybe, hopefully, that one great one. You know, but for lefties, get it, man. That's
absolutely hard. True. You have no idea, man. When people tell me, yeah, I've been to this shop, and then they had 5 great Les Pauls there, and they were all custom shop, and they had different colors, and I had a hard time choosing which is the best one. I'm like, dude, they usually have one guitar for me, okay? And then I have to decide, is this good enough or not? Yeah. But it used to be way worse, actually. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was a disaster. You basically had to go to like a custom shop builder or something. I mean, there were custom shop Les Pauls, but usually like a big store like Thomann, which is the German version of like Sweetwater, would have maybe 3. Then 2 of them were out of your budget, pretty much. You have to. So I learned from the very beginning. I learned to play on shitty guitars. To be honest, my first Les Paul I had like a Les Paul copy, and it was just bad. It was like really, really bad.
Yeah. Did you ever just when you were starting out, did you get right-handed guitars and just flip them upside down, or were you always able to get lefty guitars?
No, I remember we went to a guitar store, my dad and I. So my dad is a singer, and he saw me playing like an acoustic guitar at home, and so I was intrigued by that because I saw Angus Young like jumping around on the stage. I was like, I want to do that. And then he was like, okay, we got to get this guy a guitar maybe, and he seems to be talented. So we went to this guitar store, and my dad goes in and says, okay, this is my son. He's left-handed. Do you have a left-handed guitar? Because he saw me playing left-handed right away. Yeah. And then the shop owner said, stop that immediately. Like, get him used to playing right-handed. He will get in trouble. He will get in trouble. He's going to have no options. And my dad was like, I remember this. My dad was like, if I'm telling him to play right-handed, he's going to stop. Right. And that was pretty much the story. I don't know if that would turn out to be true, but I'm a left-handed guy, and to be honest, being left-handed has resulted in some very, very funny stories. I can tell you later about a story with Paul McCartney, actually, which is pretty funny.
Oh,
because
wow.
because he's left-handed too. Actually, we can do it right away.
Yeah.
That's it would be too much of a tease. So 2011, I get invited by Gibson to fly over to Nashville and see the production side and everything like that, because I was active in some like online forum, German online forum. And I went there and they showed me the Memphis side, the Nashville side, the acoustic guitar side, and all these different things. At the end of this trip, like 6 day trip, they were like, Joe, you got a surprise for you. You can actually like spec out a custom shop guitar if you want to. And I'm like, sure. Can I do a left-handed one? And they're like, sure, no problem. Maybe we can even make it happen. We send it to like a German store and then maybe you can try it out or something. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, because back at back in those days, this would have been way out of my budget. So
Right.
and I was 20, I was underage. I was 20 years old. So it's like, I can never buy it, but maybe I can play it in some store. I don't know. So I spec a left-handed guitar, make it lemon burst. I want an out of phase middle position like Peter Green, because I'm a huge fan. And they're like, okay, is this going to be an R9? I'm like, yeah, let's make it a 59 and let's try and get a lightweight body and all these different things. And I'm like, sure, cool, we're going to do that. So I'm flying home. 3 weeks later, they're calling me like, Joey, we have bad news. We're not going to be able to send this guitar to a German store. I'm like, oh man, that's sad. Why is that? Yeah, Paul McCartney walked into the shop. He wants the guitar. I'm like, oh.
Oh no. Damn.
That's what I heard. I don't know if he bought it, if they gave it to him. I don't know if he ever played it live anywhere. I don't know. That's the last time I heard from them. So this guitar never actually showed up in the store.
So Paul McCartney has a Joey Jones signature Les Paul.
No, man. I mean,
Wow.
that's
That's pretty
far.
badass.
No. That's far-fetched, man. I'm just like a simple guy from Germany playing guitar. It's just like, has nothing to do with the signature model. Okay. That's a story to start a podcast, man. I actually want to ask you questions. Now
Sure.
that's fine. So you're the guitarist. So for all the guys who don't know Doug Rappoport, not only is he like the amp review guy on YouTube, but also he's guitar player in Edgar Winter's band, and also the guitar player in, hopefully I say this right, Eikichi Yazawa's band. Is that right?
Perfect.
Oh man, great. How do you get a gig like an Edgar Winter gig? Because I feel like, I mean, that's such a classic 70s American band. Like, how do you just get a gig like that? How does that happen?
You know, it's a long story. I'll try and make it as interesting and quick as possible. But I grew up in Los Angeles, and I was tooling around LA like everybody else from all over the world, trying to, work as a professional guitar player. I was in bands, and you just meet more and more people as time goes on. And I came under the radar of a guy named Barry Squire, who works for all the record. Doesn't work for, he's an independent guy, but whenever an artist gets signed to a label, whatever, a singer or whatever, they go to Barry Squire to help put a band together for these artists. Okay. And so if you get on his radar, he takes your information and he has you on his list of guys that he likes, that he will recommend to artists. So he was recommending me to a lot of, like folk guys and pop guys. And I'm just I'm like, we're the same school, just blues and rock,
Oh yeah.
And so I'm doing all these auditions, and I'm getting close on some of them, but it's not my bag, it's not my thing. And I just, well, gosh, I didn't even get that to. So what happened was I was working part-time at a auction house in Beverly Hills that specialized in ancient Chinese art. And the owner of the owner of the auction house was a singer, an aspiring singer. And he was very wealthy. So he decided he wanted to make an album singing Sinatra tunes and stuff like that, old standards.
Okay. All right.
So my job working at that place was I had to drive the company van to go get the engineer and help him haul all his gear around.
I like where this is going.
Yeah. And so the engineer and I became good buddies. I go, I'm a guitar player. And so goes, oh, cool. You know, he says, well, I do front of house for America, and I do front of house for Edgar Winter, and I do front of house for this guy and that guy, and I'm an engineer. He said, you know, do you have a demo? I said, yeah, I have a little disc I made. And I gave it to him, and he loved it. And then he showed it to his son, who was like 13 and was a big like guitar fanatic, and he loved it. And it just happened that Edgar was looking for a guitar player, and he had found someone, right? But this engineer guy said to me, or he called up Edgar, he goes, listen, I think you should hear this kid. I know you already got someone, but I think you should listen to him. And Edgar agreed. So I grabbed my guitar and a little practice amp, and I went to Edgar's house. He called me out of the blue, which was crazy. And we just jammed in his house for a little while, and that was it. I got the gig. And I think I got the gig because I was a younger guy, and I was playing heavy music. I mean, I looked like I belonged in the Deftones, you know. I had like spiky hair and huge earrings, and
nothing wrong with that, man.
yeah, I was a total like metal guy. And Edgar at that time was thinking, you know, I think I want to experiment with heavier rock. I want to delve into that a little bit. So I had that going for me, but I could play the blues, which you have to for Edgar. So it just sort of worked out. And I've been with him for over 20 years now. So pretty cool.
That's a crazy story, man. These coincidences.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just
dumb luck. Yeah.
Hey, I had this question saved for later, but it actually fits in pretty well here because you were saying there were a lot of auditions you were doing, and did you ever turn down a gig because you didn't like the music? So a gig you would have gotten maybe, but then you said, "Oh no, I just can't do it."
Gosh, I don't think so. I don't think so. There was actually, this is kind of a cute story. That same guy I told you about, Barry Squire, how I met him was a friend of mine called me and said, hey, there's a musical that's coming to LA. There was a huge musical in Broadway in New York called Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was a huge Broadway hit, and they wanted to bring it out to Los Angeles. So my buddy called me and goes, hey, my buddy's a drummer. He goes, I'm going to go audition. Would you do me a favor and come with me? Because I think it'd be cool to have some live guitar there for my audition. And I go, yeah, sure. So I went with the drummer. He sent me the songs. I learned a couple songs. I did the audition with him. And anyway, he didn't get called back, but I did. So I went back and I did another audition, and they liked me. Then they called me back again. And this was a huge audition. There were like 1,500 guitar players going for this gig.
What?
Yeah, it's huge. It was huge.
They had a lot of time on their hands, huh?
Yeah. And so long story short, I made it all the way to the end. Like I was the last of two guys. And the guy who wrote the play, he came to me and said, dude, you're perfect for this. I'd love you to be in it, but I'm going with the other guy because he comes with a drummer and they've done tons of musical theater. I've never done musical theater. Yeah. And he said, so I'm going to go with them. But he says, we're opening in San Francisco, and if you want it, it's yours. And I turned it down, but not because of the music, just because I didn't want to go to San Francisco.
What's so wrong about San Francisco?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't want to go. I don't remember why. It's a long time ago. I probably should have, but I just didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave LA. So.
Oh, this was back in the LA times. Okay.
Oh yeah. This is years and years and years ago.
Is it? I mean, I'm so far away. I'm literally sitting in the middle of Berlin here. Is LA still the thing? Is that still the thing it used to be? Like in terms of session players and auditions and all that stuff, is it still happening there?
I don't think so. It's just it's the same. No, it's a whole different game now. You know, people do things in home studios, and all the great session cats have to diversify. They have to do lots of different things. You know.
Yeah.
They have to do schools and stuff. Yeah.
That is something I guess COVID brought onto us as well. So, for instance, I am getting emailed for remote sessions now. Like some Irish artist needs guitars for a singer-songwriter album, and then just management just emails me or even writes via Instagram, your playing is great, could you do a couple tracks? And then Sure. Like
Yeah,
back into that, which is flown out, you know,
yeah,
and crazy, crazy
yeah,
how that happens sometimes. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, but still these remote session kind of things where they just give you instructions by email, like we want something that is a little bit more driving, these
yeah,
kinds of instructions. Like,
yeah,
all right, what does that mean? But that's cool, man. Hey, when I remember you were on tour, Edgar Winter, and I was already following you on Instagram. So, and then I see this post of you showing your finger and it was broken. I
yeah,
still remember this post. So you broke it was not on an Edgar Winter tour, right? It was on the Eikichi tour. So you
yeah,
were in Japan. So I
yeah.
see this. Okay. So I see this post. I'm like, oh my God, this looks like a broken finger. And then I see the caption. It's like, yeah, guess who broke his finger on tour in like an arena tour.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, man. That's a nightmare.
Total. Yeah. That was my first tour with Yazawa, and
Oh
it
no.
was a long tour. We were there for God, I don't know, 2.5 months, and I don't know how many shows we had. 40. I don't know, 40 shows or something. And that was show number 5. And what happened was, um, as after the show, we were backstage and all sweaty, and I'm taking off my clothes, and because you're all sweaty, your clothes kind of stick to you. So I'm trying to take my pants off. So I'm pushing with my hands like this, and I push really hard. It just
No
snapped,
way.
snapped my finger back, broke.
Did you notice immediately it was broken?
Oh yeah,
Oh no.
yeah. And the whole room went silent. They were just looking. I took out my hand, and it was all gross looking, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And it was like, yeah, it was horrific. It was horrific, and I thought it's over. I mean, it's over. I have to go home. I'm going to lose this gig. I barely got started. So,
Jesus.
luckily I had a couple days off. We had a few days off, and we'd gone to the next town, and I got X-rays, and they gave me splints and stuff, and to keep it taped up. And I just spent 2-3 days in my room, relearning the songs, just learning how to play. Just changing my fingering, and I was on tour with Jeff Coleman, um, another guy you should talk to. He's a brilliant musician, great
Note
guitar player.
Noted.
Yeah, and I had him. He had to cover me for several nights. He had to take my solos, and he really stepped up and covered for me while I figured out how to get through these shows. And eventually I got it, and I got used to it, and I could play all my solos. There's only one song I couldn't do, which was an acoustic tune, because I had to have all 4 fingers for it. So I couldn't do that one, but I managed to get back all my songs, get all my solos. I mean, as long as I can just do some pentatonic stuff and slide around, I'm good. So I just sort of had this big splint on my finger, and I managed to finish the tour. It was a miracle. So,
And you were able to flip everybody off while you're doing
oh
it.
yeah, yeah, giving everyone the bird. Yeah.
I'm wondering how do you navigate a situation like that with an artist? I mean, I was just thinking, if it was my pinky, I would probably not even tell anybody. But
Yeah.
you probably had to, right? Because you were moving parts around and stuff. Like you had to probably tell Eikichi, "Hey man, I broke
Yeah.
my finger."
I did. I had to, we walked into the dressing room, and
Oh man, that's such a
I
log.
showed him my finger, and he goes, "Oh," he was devastated. I was like, "It's okay. I'm so sorry. I felt terrible. I just felt,
Oh
because you
no,
feel
yeah.
like you're letting everybody down, and
Totally,
it's
man.
just
Oh,
the worst feeling." But I was just like, "It's going to be okay. I'll do it. I'll make it happen." You find that determination to just get through, and it worked.
oh my God, it's such a gross feeling, like walking up to the artist that just booked you for the first tour. Oh man.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't take care of yourself. What's happening?
Yeah.
You know? Oh man. So okay. So I'll try not to do that. Like,
Yeah. Be careful. Seriously, be careful. Like, I learned later, it's, if you push on something, if you're like pushing something down or whatever, and using the tip of your finger to push down on things, it's, be
okay.
careful, because you could pop that joint real easy.
That happens sometimes at the gym, to be honest, when I'm doing like push-ups and stuff. Oh man, I
Yeah.
have to be careful. Okay. Hey, oh wow. What a story, man. Um, how did you become the amp guy, actually? Like the amp review guy? Because I feel like for every good or like boutique EL34 high gain machine that comes out, like you do a review for, which is great because that's exactly the kind of stuff that I love. I love these amps. I love the Friedmans
Yeah.
and you know, how did you become the amp review guy?
I just made, they just send me, like, I started with Friedman. And the reason it started with Friedman was like, he had just come out with the BE 100. And I've known Dave for 100 years. And I go, dude, I got to get one of these amps. He goes, oh, all right. Well, they were really expensive. And then one of Dave's partners said, hey, you know what? I saw a Bogner video. That's right. Bogner brought me out when he just built the Helios, and he brought me out to the amp show, which
Yep.
was in Van Nuys, California. And he said, we're just going to film you. Well, I want you to just plug into some amps and jam and we'll film. And I was like, okay. Bogner's a friend of mine. I was like, yeah. So I did it, and it really blew up. It got really big. That video of me just jamming on his amps.
I mean,
And so then Freeman was like, hey, why don't you why don't you make a few videos for us? I'll give you an amp or give you a little bit of money, and it's just cool to see you jam. So I did. I made a video of me just jamming on his amp, and it did really well. It blew up. And
I love the solo on the BE video, man. You don't want to know how often I watch that video. Like, dude, that video of you playing the Friedman BE, like it's kind of like a Night Prowler riff, right? It's like, it's like I always call it the Night Prowler riff. Man, that solo, you're ripping, man. How do you
oh,
do it? How do you do it? So it's just, no wonder the entire guitar community knew who you were right after that video. I saw the Helios video too. Thing that bugged me a little bit about that one is there was so much room sound on it. I guess it was on purpose, but to me, I'm sitting here in my home studio. I'm dealing with mic signals all the time. So when I want to hear an amp and I hear all the rooms, I'm like, yeah, sure. I need to hear with an SM57 in front. But the BE, man, holy moly. I mean, your playing speaks for itself anyway, but then this sound, absolutely amazing, man.
Yeah, it worked out great. Yeah. And
Dude,
so but from then on, it was just like people were like, oh, well, hey, will you play my amp? And so on. So
oh, man, that's great. There was a comment under one of your videos, and I saw it, and I had to 100% agree. It was it was something along the lines of, for every amp that comes out, there should be a Doug Rappoport video first before it hits the market. And I 100% agree, man. You're showing all the, I mean, you're showing like Blackstars and the Metropolous that I see in the back there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen an amp review on your channel that didn't sound amazing, and I'm sure they do sound different. But when you're playing them, man, it's like that's great.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate that, bro.
Again, Doug, how do you do it? Will we get to this kind of secret within this podcast? How do you do it?
God, I think it just comes from 20, 25 years of touring, to be honest with you, because I'm a sideman, and that means people hire me to play guitar for them, and I don't bring my own gear. I just grab a guitar, a handful of pedals, and I get handed on the backline whatever I get handed. So, which most of the time is a JCM 2000 and some sort of Marshall cabinet with God knows what. And you got to figure out how to dial it in. And I toured with a lot of great guys, man. I toured with a lot of really seasoned professional guitar players, and they were always really cool to me. And they'd always go, yeah, you got to look out for this, you got to look out for that, and take this down, and this is going to bump you up in the mix, and here's what I do with this, and here's how I dial the gain. So I just spent, over 2 decades dialing in Marshall amps, and you train your ears. And I got a knack for getting the best out of an amp, and I think that's why the amp builders like me, is because they know I will find the sound that they envision. I can do that. It's just something I can do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to do that.
Dude, you sound great, dude. Your tone is killer.
No.
It
Man.
is for real, man. You have
I
great
I
tone.
can't take that seriously, but when people say that, because they're all listening on their fucking phone speaker, it's like, how do you know that tone is good? I mean, you're listening literally to their iPhone speaker. I mean, I appreciate it, obviously, but it's like, it's, I take it with a grain of salt, let's just say. and I always feel like, I mean, yeah, the sound might be okay, but then I'll listen to your videos and I'm like, oh man, I gotta practice.
Well, likewise, my friend.
Oh no.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, you're a great player. I always gotta feel like I gotta up my game after I see your
No,
videos.
no way, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's crazy, man. All right. You played so many EL34 amps, right? And can you give me just like your top 3 of all the EL34s you played? The BRBSs, the Metropoluses, the Friedmans, Marshalls, Blackstars, all the different things. Or maybe not top 3. What would be the overall best if Desert Island EL34 amp? Give it to me.
Oh God. I'm really loving the Metropolous amp right now. Yeah, it's sensational.
What's the
Records like a
difference?
dream.
What's the difference to like a Friedman? I mean, the Friedman does compress a little bit in the upper mids, right? This is always what I'm hearing in the BE, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But how is the Metropolous different?
The Metropolous is the one that I have, is a replica of Super Leads. Now the Friedman BE is Marshall based, like all EL34 amps. But what all the amp builders do is they have a frequency, usually a mid and high mid frequency that they love, and they put that into their Marshall style amp. So Bogner has a particular mid-range that he likes, and he voices that, makes that prominent in his amps. And Friedman has his a certain way. He likes his mids to be more open and wider, and he puts that in all his amps, and so on. The Metropolous is an exact replica of a particular super lead that George has. And then he has another component that you switch over that's an exact replica, circuit-wise, component-wise, as Eddie Van Halen's
Oh wow, man.
amplifiers. So with a flick of a switch, you're in Van Halen. I mean, it's perfect. So in that regard, it's the ultimate plexi, but with modern, without having to go change caps every 2 weeks, or it's just a really well-built, reliable, great sounding plexi. So if you're looking for a great sounding 60 super lead, or an exact thing of I think he based it off of Jimmy Page's, actually. His super lead side is like the Jimmy Page Marshall, and then the other side is like the Eddie Van Halen. So, and then there's, but it's got its own mid-range. It's exactly like that gorgeous Marshall mid-range that you love. And yeah. And then the BRBS is another fantastic amp, but his is more like a modified Marshall, like a really great 800.
Like a Jose or something, like 80s.
Not quite Jose, but the guy Sebastiano, I forget his last name, I'm sorry. He made his bones over in Italy modifying Marshall amps. And so he's the guy there. So you send your Marshall, he mods it, makes it sound killer. So he just made his own amp. This is just like a great modded Marshall. And it's a brilliant amplifier. I mean, yeah. So if we were sticking with top 3, I'd go Metropolous, BRBS, and Friedman. Those would be my top.
And would the Friedman be the normal BE?
No, you know what? This new vintage Plex. It'd be that
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
I haven't tried that one, but I really like the Phil X one.
The Philex is great.
This was
Yeah.
the one that surprised me the most. So I started with a. By the way, I have a cool Dave Friedman story to tell as well. But but I started with a small box at some like music show years ago, and I was like, "Oh, this is a great one." And then I saw your famous BE video, and I had to try a BE. I love the BE, but what I didn't like about the BE so much is when you wanted a mid gain tone instead of like full throttle, saturation stuff. I felt like it was a little bit, I don't know what was missing, maybe low end or maybe just a little bit of oomph. I'm not sure. But when I tried the Phil X in a store, I was like, oh, I get it now. This is probably the one of the Friedmans that is supposed to be a mid gain Friedman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like to start with like a Malcolm tone.
Yes.
And I'm like, the Phil X did that to a T. I was like, oh, you had this juiciness, if that's a word, this juiciness in the mid gain tone, like cool crunch. You could squeeze it. It was so good. I was like, oh man, that is super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the same as me. My starting off point is Angus and Malcolm. That's where I start. Or
I can
Steve
hear it,
Clark.
brother.
Yeah.
I can tell, brother. That's the school of thought.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where I start and I go from there. So yeah, any of those 3 amps, I really would be my go-to guys for sure. But I think you should check out that Metropolous, man, the Metroplex. It's pretty killer.
It's a little hard for me because I'm located in Europe, but the BRBS thing is itching me just because he's located in Italy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe like after this podcast, we can just exchange contact details and maybe you have like his email or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would love to try a BRBS, man.
Yeah, for sure. And the clean is killer. Like I brought that BRBS on tour, the last 2 tours I was in Japan, because I have to cover such a huge palette of tones. So I got the Marshall tone on one side, which is killer.
Okay.
And then I can go on the clean sound. I have it's a brilliant clean, beautiful. And it's a great pedal platform. So I get some other like really cool. So I cover the whole thing. I do everything from Keith Richards, all the really cool vintagey over by putting a pedal in front of the clean side and then go to my basic screaming Marshall sound on the other side. So I was able to just do everything with the 1 amp. So it's really good.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
What is your do you have like a favorite Dave Friedman story? Because I have one.
A favorite Dave Friedman story. Not really. I mean,
you guys go way back, right?
We go way back. I'll tell you that I will tell this story, and I felt pretty good about it. I put out recently the vintage Plex video for Dave, and someone came on the comment section and was talking shit about how Dave was using Chinese tubes.
Oh yeah, I love
or whatever.
Hmm.
And you choose Chinese tubes, and you charge so much. And I had to go on there, and I just had to say about Dave, because I've known him since we were both young when we started. He's a little older than me. But he helped build my first rig. The first time I started like getting like a proper amp and a real speaker, he built it for me. He built my cables.
Wow.
And he put it together for me. And like I said, we were both starting out. We were both really young. And I tell you what, man, I still have those cables. I still use them. They're part of my rig.
Crazy,
and
man.
I haven't had to resolder one joint that he ever soldered. Okay. He is quality, first and foremost, top quality. He takes it serious. He does not cut corners. And I've been to the factory. I've hung out with him at the factory while he tests every one of his amps himself. He sits there and he tests them, and he road tests them. And I won't tell you how he does it because you don't want to know. But he makes sure that they can handle the rigors of the road and they can handle being shit. He tests it all, and when he signs his name, you can be sure he put his hands on it. So that's really my only Dave Friedman story, is just to let everybody know. If he's using Chinese tubes or particular cap, there's a damn good reason for it. And it ain't cutting corners.
Yeah.
Because he's serious about his work, and his work lasts, and he's dedicated to his art. So
Yeah, I mean, the internet is just cruel sometimes. Here in Germany, they say the same thing about the diesel amps. Peter Diesel is pretty much the Dave Friedman of Germany. It's like top-notch quality. Metallica playing the amps, Tool playing the amps. And then there's some guys on the internet that's like, oh, they're not as good as they used to. And I'm really, is that really true? Last time I checked, they were still the biggest bands were still playing. Miles Kennedy of Alter Bridge is playing diesel amps. They're touring the world. I mean, internet warriors. We don't have to get into that. But so I just want to add to that Dave Friedman story, because not only I think Dave Friedman is not only quality, but the one thing that is totally underestimated, at least here, this side of the pond, is Dave Friedman is also customer service 110%. I feel like Dave Friedman is not only the quality guy, but his customer service is second to absolutely none. I'm going to tell you why. So I don't know Dave Friedman personally. Never talked to him. He doesn't know who I am, and he shouldn't, So it's totally fine. But for a lot of my Instagram videos, and also the ones that went viral and stuff, I'm using this camper over here, okay? And I bought this camper from somebody else, and it came with a couple of profiles from the first owner. And I assume he did those profiles himself because they're not labeled and they're not named. So they say something like Friedman, but they don't specify any model or cab or anything like that. It just says Friedman, and that's all the info you have. So what I did was, one day I just was so curious. I just needed to know, because I got compliments for my sound and all these different things. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to write Dave and ask for a very ridiculous thing. I'm going to ask him to watch one of my Instagram videos and reverse engineer which Friedman this could be, because I'm using a camper profile of a Friedman, but I don't know which model. So in case if I want to buy that model, I know what it is,
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so sorry, Dave. I don't want to bother you with this, but I would love to know, because I love the sound of this profile. I don't know which one it is. And I got an email like an hour later, and he was like, must be a small box. And I'm like, all right, I believe it.
Wow.
I believe it. Who else would do that? I'm just some random guy. I don't even have like a track record of buying a million amps or anything like that. He doesn't even know me. And he's like, yeah, I watched it. Probably a small box because A, B, and C, like short mail, but it was informative enough for me to like, oh, that's amazing. He is really trying to help. And it's a really, it's a dumb email pretty much. How is he supposed to know? But there you go.
Very cool. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I believe it. You probably just listened to it for 10 seconds and knew what it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like just a random dude on Instagram, but here you go. Like, it's a small box. Great. Hey, man, that's awesome. Okay, what other? I mean, this was pretty much the amp questions that we got.
Yeah.
Now there's some quick guitar questions too. Some of them are from me, and then other ones are from Instagram. So I noticed there's a lot of Gibsons in your room lately. Like, a lot of Gibson, not so much Nags anymore. Is that just a change in taste, or what's happening?
Yeah. I was always a Les Paul guy. Not always, but for most of my career, I've been a Les Paul guy. And a guy contacted me once, a guy named Kelsey Alonso, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm going to get you to put down your Les Paul." And I go, "Yeah, good luck."
Oh, wow.
And he says, "All right, give me your address. I'll have somebody send you a guitar." So someone sent me a guitar, and I was like, "Yeah, no." And I sent it back. And then he sent me another guitar, and I pick it. And I go, "Nope," and I send it back. And then he sent me a Nags one day, and I picked it up and I played it. And I'm like, oh, well. And I got really excited about it. And I started a relationship with Nags, and it was really great. They were great people. The guitars are outstanding. I recommend Les Paul fan or a short scale, mahogany guitar fan should probably own one, because they have a great sound. Not exactly like a Les Paul, but that same sort of great mid-range with its own sound. They're great guitars. But you know, I wanted to go back to playing my Les Pauls, and we just kind of didn't agree about that sort of thing, and well, we just ended up parting ways in the end. And you know, I want to play what I want to play when I want to play it, and I don't want to be beholden to any one company.
Sure.
So that's all that happened. I still love Nags. I love the guys over
Sure.
there. Joe Nags is super cool. The guitars are great, but I'm at home with a Les Paul. So that's
So
what happened.
basically just like you just felt like playing Gibsons again.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Do you I have a pretty run-of-the-mill 1958 reissue over here, and I love it. I really, really love it. There's such sentimental value in that instrument for me because I started on Les Pauls. Jimmy Page, my absolute guitar hero, and a lot of other guys are playing Les Pauls that I absolutely look up to. Justin Derrico playing for Pink, and then you were playing Les Pauls too, and all that stuff. There's just one thing that really bugs me about my Les Paul, and I can't seem to get it right. It's like that thing just doesn't stay in tune as well as other guitars. Why is that?
It's the headstock angle and the strings flaring out like that. I think that's what it is.
It makes me sick sometimes. It makes me hesitant about using it in a session because
Sure.
it's just so embarrassing sometimes. I have to reach you in the G string. You know, for me, it's the G string mostly. It's like, oh man, or if I'm doing like an overbend on the B string, I'm like, oh man, I can already feel it's going out. It's going out of tune.
Oh yeah.
It's
You're not
giving me-
alone. You're not alone, Joey.
How do you deal with that?
You just deal with it. It's a pain in the ass. For me, I toured with my black Les Paul for 20 years. And the D string, no matter what I did, the D string would always go flat. Always. I've had the nut changed. I've had the bridge changed. I had the tuners changed. I did everything you can do to make this motherfucker stay in tune. And it always went flat. And I learned, you know what I did? I just learned how every time I play a chord I bend the D string a little bit.
Oh, so you bend it in tune.
Yeah. And I got to the point where I could just play and automatically bend it into tune, which is ridiculous. But I did that. I did it for like 20 years, you know. And I even got to, and that's what happened when I got the Nags guitar for the first time. It stayed in tune, and I kept wanting to bend it, so I had to unlearn bending the string. So yeah, no, it's a pain in the ass.
Oh man, you bend the D string out of tune on the Nags all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, this adjustment, man, this is crazy because you know, I don't know if you know, if you're aware of like Nick Huber guitars.
No.
It's kind of like a Nags brand as well. As like he was apprentice of Paul Reed Smith, and he's based in Germany, and he's building his own guitars. Biffy Clyro played Nick Huber's, and I guess Foo Fighters basses, and a lot of big bands using Nick Huber's.
Yeah.
I have one too. I'm getting another one as well. Oh man, you got this great build quality. Everything is just so perfect, and you play that for a while, and you play it and play, and then maybe you go on a weekender or a tour with that guitar, and you get so used to it being so flawless. And I'm back in my studio, and somebody's asking for like a classic rock solo or something, and I'm pulling out my Les Paul, and I'm like, totally forgot about it. You have to tune it.
Yeah.
You know,
hey, have you seen that? It's a Canadian company. They make a thing called String Butler.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Phil X was really pushing those guys for a while. It's a thing you put on the headstock that pulls all your strings into a straight line, so they go straight and down through the nuts.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, it keeps your guitar in tune beautifully.
Man, I guess I'm, you know, I'm have to check that out maybe, but maybe I just keep it traditional and just live with it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
I always thought something was wrong with my Les Paul, but now I'm hearing you got that too. Okay.
Yeah. Les Pauls are a problem. They are a problem. They just sound so damn good.
Just sound very, very, very good. I just noticed it today. Like testing out one amp over here, like a Swiss company, and put it through its paces with my Telecaster. And then with my Nick Cooper, I was like, yeah, it's good. It's maybe not great. And then I pulled out Les Paul. I was like, there we go. There it was. It's like everything just fell into place. Perfect. Okay, more guitar question. Desert Island guitar.
I mean, of the ones of any guitar or the ones I own? Or?
Yeah, let's say you can only have one guitar for the rest of your life, and you have to be able to cover everything with that, like sessions, Eikichi, Edgar, whatever else you're doing.
Desert Island guitar. I would be a great Les Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess you're not applying for any bluegrass jobs anymore at this point.
No.
Hey, here's an interesting thing about bluegrass, just like as a side note. I listened to Dipped in Tone, the podcast today with Red Shaw, and he had Andy Wood on.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can always tell who's a bluegrass player first, second, because they don't bend.
Oh.
Do you get that? I don't understand.
No, I don't get it.
All right.
Yeah.
We got that out of the way.
Yep.
Last guitar that really surprised you, either because of money for value, or because it was super cheap but still super good, or last guitar that really, really surprised you in terms of tone or playability or whatever.
Yeah, sure. I picked up 2 years ago a Les Paul Custom. You might have seen him in some of my videos. It's a white Les Paul Custom.
Yep.
I've always wanted one, just because I love the look of them. It's just been a dream guitar that I've wanted forever. And I was in Osaka, out with Jeff Coleman. We were out guitar shopping, and there it was. It was hanging there, and man, it was like a dream. It's like I manifested. It was just everything. It had the tone. It had the look. It's a little beat up. It's pretty beat up, but yeah. And I always, I've been looking for a great custom for years, and they're all like $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. And this one was, I won't tell you how much, but it was not that expensive. And
what year is it?
It's a 1989.
Oh, the good years.
Yeah, the good years.
What the forum says are the good years, which I don't care that much about, but okay.
But man, it's just, and then the pickups aren't the original pickups, but they are from a 1986 Gibson. I'm not sure which one. It might have been a 335, but he popped those in. They're really low wound, so they're very clear.
Would that be those Tim Shaw pickups?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, because I guess they have a name in the 80s, I guess, if I remember correctly, but I'm not like a Gibson history nerd or something.
Yeah.
But there were these great pickups in the 80s. I guess they were called Tim Shaw. Maybe somebody in the comments knows.
Yeah, I'd love to know. But they sound fantastic, and it's just, and it is a Les Paul that actually does stay in tune really, really well. And it's got the sound, it's got the look, it stays in tune, it's got a gorgeous tone. And that I didn't have to spend $10,000 is just, it's like miraculous. So yeah, super
Great.
Excited about that.
Why do you think the customs never reached that widespread, thing where everybody wanted to play them? Why do you think that is? Because every time I pick up a custom, I'm like, this feels really, really good. I mean, the ebony stuff I like under the fingers. It feels really, really good. Yes, they are a bit heavier, but usually the sound is, I enjoy a little bit more attack out of a Les Paul, and I feel like I get it with the custom. It's just when you pick, it's just a little more percussive,
Sure.
And I like that, especially paired with like Plexi, which has a lot of this cool attack anywhere, and you're like, why do you think that? You can see I'm excited about this. Why do you think they never got as famous as the normal Sunbursts?
Just because I think there aren't that many notable players that played them. I mean, you got Randy Rhoads, obviously.
Sure.
And then Zach Wilde.
Frampton, right?
Yeah, Frampton, that's right. So that's 3. But then you look at like Gary Moore or Jimmy Page or any other Les Paul player, there's all been bursts. I just think I just think it's recognition, I guess.
So it's more a coincidence than anything else.
Yeah, I think so.
Now that you're mentioning Gary Moore, it's actually pretty funny because last time I saw Gary Moore live, he constantly had to retune his G string on his Les Paul as well, by the way. Now that I think of it, even the 59 bursts have had that issue, man. Crazy.
Yeah. It's a real problem. It's a design flaw. I'm sure it's just a design flaw.
Probably.
Yeah.
But they still sound awesome. All right. A couple more questions that don't have anything to do particularly with guitars or amps, but a couple cool things about your technique too. So when I watch you play, I see a lot of these very, very cool micro bends that you're doing, especially in the pentatonic runs, where you're pretty much floating. Let's say you're on an E minor pentatonic and you go up to the G, and then, but the G sometimes with you never is really a G, but it's also not a G sharp. It's like floating between major and minor third, and that's the kind of stuff that I really, really love. And I do as well. I got that from you. And like, when people ask me, how do you do these bends? I'm like, ask Doug. Like, I just completely copied these micro bends. How did you start with that? And where did you see that? Where did you pick that up?
I don't know, man.
Is that a BB King thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's BB King. It's all the kings, Freddie King, all those guys. The thing that I was different than my contemporaries, or maybe I think that made me different than other guitar players, is that I came up in the 80s. So my exposure to guitar was the shred guys, and a lot of people from my era were focused on the technical aspects of the guitar player. So, Yngwie is, figuring out those licks and being able to pick them all. That was the focus for a lot. For me, it was his vibrato.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I love the speed stuff too, but Eddie, his vibrato, the way he could shake the note, there was a trajectory of that note.
Yep.
It hit there, go, wow.
Exactly. And yeah.
How is he doing that? It's just like, and George Lynch, the same thing. There's a note trajectory and a vibe and the speed of the vibrato and the depth of the bends. And those are the things I really focused on, because that's what excited me. That's what gave me the goosebumps was how they played the note, not that they played the note. And so I love the blues, and I love the blues. And there's so much, if you listen to a blues vocal, the way they sing, there's a lot of micro bends and inaccuracies. And it almost sounded like they were playing with guitars that were really out of tune, but they would bend the notes and tweak the strings with their hands to get it in tune. It was never quite in tune. It was always a little bit sharp.
Exactly.
And it's so sexy, man. It's
just
a little bit
man.
Sharp. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. So I just focus, it just sort of became a part of my playing. And another thing, and this is good for because we're so inundated with so many great guitar players, like as I see young guys like you and guitar players.
We have to stop that, Doug.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take long for anyone to go online and see these incredible guitar players and guys with incredible technique, and there's so many. And when I was young, I guess like high school or whatever, I got to get guitar lessons with Gary Hoey, okay? Because he actually lived down the street from me. And it was right before his career took off, so he was still teaching. And he's not the most technical guy, but he has his own thing that he's great at that made him in demand. And what he taught me was going with what you got. There's always going to be somebody who's faster. There's always going to be somebody who's got a more expensive gear than you. There's always going to be somebody that's better looking, has better hair, or whatever. You got to know what you do and do that. and the expression he uses, going with guns blazing with what you got.
Which
You
is
know what I
actually
mean?
true. I feel like I'm 30,
Yeah.
I'm 32 now. And I go through these phases where I'm like, God, I suck, And I'm like, it's like I'm filming an Instagram thing. And the thing is, and maybe this is also important to notice, what you see was my best take, okay?
Yeah.
You didn't see all these takes that were just completely, just like not great. Just like I considered putting out a reel with just like bloopers because
Yeah.
you would laugh your ass off. I'm like, I'm getting angry at myself. So it's like, can't believe I didn't get this pen, you know, these,
Yeah.
these kinds of things. And then I'm like, but what I'm realizing more and more is, okay, but there's a niche or there's a couple of things that I do that other people maybe don't do. Maybe I'm not
Yeah.
the fastest guy. I can play fast a little bit, but I'm not great at it. I mean, but melodies, for instance, I focus so much on good melodies and things that stick in people's minds, even when they close Instagram. It's like, oh yeah, I still have that in my head. That's great to me because first and foremost, I'm actually a songwriter. So
Oh, great.
whenever that happens, it's awesome. So when I play solo and it's not the fastest in the world, I tend to forgive myself at this point. I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But I got a good bend in, and that's more important. But
Yeah.
I guess it takes a while to get there because all of my 20s, I'm like, looked at guitar players obviously way better than I was, which is I think is important that you do that and get inspiration from these players. But at some point, you just have to find your niche. Like I'm that, but I'll never be this.
Yeah.
I can't be Ingvi, and I shouldn't strive to be Ingvi because I
Right.
can't.
That's right.
Uh, Tom Bukovac actually said something great in some podcast where he said, "You can only be you.
Yeah.
Everybody else is already taken," or something like that.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah. And and as far as the bloopers go, I think I have 2 videos on Instagram where I throw my guitar on the ground.
You do? I haven't seen those.
I'll send them to you. Yeah. I show my bloopers. Yeah. It's like, God damn it, I take it off. I throw the
Yeah, I
guitar.
need to do that as well.
Yeah.
I think also it's important to go through these I suck phases just because you need that. As
Yeah.
soon as you're like, no, nobody can touch me. My playing is great, man. But what are you talking about? What's not to like about it? As soon as that happens, it's all downhill, I guess.
Yeah.
One more question about your playing technique, and
Sure.
I can wholeheartedly agree. The video you put out, I guess, like 15 years ago or so, about like Eric Johnson licks.
Yeah.
I'm such a Joe Bonamassa fan, and
Mm.
when I first heard the Live at the Royal Albert Hall, my dad bought the DVD in 2009, and I was in the living room. He was like, "Hey, I bought this new DVD. This player's great," and I'm like, "Yeah, who's this?" Like, young guy playing blues. What's happening? It's like, no, it's Joe Bonamassa. I'm like, okay, puts it in. And then you Ballad of Jim Henry and all these cool songs. I'm like, oh my God. My world was turned upside down because it was blues. And I was over blues at age 20. I'm like, oh, it's old school music, all these different things. Now I'm totally back into blues. But he was so new at that point. He's such a clean playing technique. And it was I thought it was so reminiscent of Eric Johnson licks.
Mm.
I think he's made a career of playing Eric Johnson licks, and he would be the first to admit that probably.
Oh, yeah.
But that's when I got so interested in these kinds of runs, and I went online and I found your video, and it was like 5 notes in a row, and then you're starting another 5 notes. I was like, oh man, it's like 15 years or 13 years ago. And when you see me playing runs today, it's so much of what I play is out of that video you did. It's like, oh, I have
Really?
five note runs, 5 notes, another 5 notes, and then the mini sweep in the middle. I tend to do that with like a hybrid picking approach rather than doing the mini sweep because I'm more of like a hybrid picking guy, like the Justin Derrico kind of style.
Yeah.
But man, that video is so inspirational.
Cool.
I wonder how many players looked at that and were like, man, I can actually play some Eric Johnson kind of licks now.
Well, of all my videos, that one has the most views by far.
Yeah?
Yeah, by far. It's not even close. Yeah. It's got like 150, 160,000 He is.
Dude, you cracked the code there. Everybody wanted to know. Nobody knew how he was doing it. And then you just came out and said, okay, guys, I'm going to show you.
You know what? My tour manager for Edgar Winter for the last, I don't know, 7 years or so was Eric Johnson's tour manager for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was constantly peppering him with questions and, asking about Eric Johnson. And he actually showed that video to Eric.
And what did he
What he
say?
thought about it. I think he just asked about the guitar I was using. He didn't really say whether I was doing it right or wrong. He's like, "Oh, does he tour with that guitar?" So
Wow, man.
I don't know if he approved it or not,
But that's crazy. He saw that video. That's amazing.
yeah.
That's great, man. Anyways, I'm super happy to have that video because I go back every now and then and see what else you did in there, because you used a lot of licks in there that you didn't explain. I was like, oh man, I need to figure this out as well.
Yeah.
A lot of cool licks in that video, man. And this is actually a super good intro video to your playing, because if you watch that video first and then you go all over your solos, you can see these things reappearing in your solos, like all these 5-note things and the mini sweeps and all that stuff.
Yep.
The Eric Johnson he kind of runs. Amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
Love that. Okay, I got one more question before we go into 3 more fan question on Instagram.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure.
This is one of my questions. Name one guitar player you'd find too intimidating to share a stage with, if there is one.
Too intimidating to share the stage with.
I mean, in terms of how well he plays, or
Yeah.
where you would literally shit your pants.
I've played on stage with guys that I normally would say I would shit myself. Gosh, I remember I was going to share a stage with Eric Gales on something once, and I was absolutely terrified. I actually did share a stage with him ultimately one day. It was a gig I did in India, and it was great. But today, who would I be terrified to share a stage with? Greg Koch.
Oh man, he's such a complete player.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. I would be just like, I'd feel like such an asshole standing on stage with that guy. Yeah. I'd just be like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not even going to play now. So, yeah,
and why is that? Can you explain?
Oh, his command of the instrument is, like you said, he's a complete guitar player. He's just another level. I don't know, he's phenomenal. He's one of those guys that plays like a chord. And you go, oh, okay, yeah, this guy's great. He's that guy. Just one note, one chord. You just go, yeah, that's something special there. So
totally. Yeah, for me, it would be a couple guys. So I wouldn't want to stand next to you on stage, that's for sure, because I would literally just go off stage and cry. But other than that, I mean, you're shaking your head. It's totally true, man. I would absolutely not agree to that gig. But other than that, I would actually, I wouldn't want to stand next to Joe Bonamassa on stage, just because of the authority. That guy in the suit, and then this tone, like 4 amps on stage, like 400-watt heads. You can only sound shitty next to him. Like he's got the live game so dialed in, the plexiglass and all that stuff. No matter what you put next to it, you can't. I mean, you can play great next to him, you will sound shitty next to him, I'm pretty sure, because, oh man, these amps, and then the way he plays, and all these gigs he's got on his belt, and oh man. And then another one would be Warren Haynes for me. Like, I would literally just walk. 100% walk off stage, like, because I love him. Like, his playing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Derek Trucks too. Like, you can pull me on stage when he's on stage. Like,
that'd be terrifying. That would be terrifying.
Playing slide with that guy.
Yeah.
It's bye-bye.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, a couple of questions I got via Instagram, because a lot of my followers asked questions too. I picked 3 here, if that's okay.
Sure.
First off, Phil asks, Doug, when is your next solo album coming? I'm listening to so much stuff on your YouTube channel. Yep, that's the question.
Okay. Answer is I don't know. I don't know. I just I have to I guess buckle down and do it. It's a lot, you know, I'm concentrating on, you know, paying bills and stuff like that. And
Okay.
so I just I got a kid in college, I got another kid in high school, and you know, I gotta make money, you know. So
100%.
I don't know. I hope soon. I hope soon. I really do.
Do you have any tracks written?
Oh God, I got tons of stuff. Yeah.
And it's all instrumental or with the singer?
Both. Lots of instrumental stuff and lots of stuff that I sing, which I think sounds horrible. So I'd love to find a singer. Who knows, you know? And I'm always looking to collaborate with guys. So if there are any musicians out there that want to collab, I'm always down for that because I've done everything on my own my whole career. So maybe I'll collab with somebody and do something that way. You know?
Yeah, I could use another solo for the next Shady Bell single that I'm doing with the guys up in Denmark. Shady Bell is my band, and
Cool.
if you're into 90s Soundgarden and early 2000s Audio Slave and these kinds of things, it would be your vibe. I can show it to you.
I'd love that.
I could use another solo, so if you're up for that. Okay, next question. Doug, give us your best economy picking advice, I guess this is supposed to say. Yeah. Your best economy picking advice.
Gosh. The best advice I can give is you got to find the guitar pick that you're comfortable with. I like these.
Oh, the Tortex 1 millimeter.
Yeah, these are great.
They would be too soft for me.
They're great. Really, you like them real heavier than that.
Oh,
I also like these, which you'll be familiar with because you're a Bonamassa fan.
It's the Jazz 3.
Jazz 3 XL, so they're the biggies. And gosh, you know, there's some really great economy pickers out there. I guess I'd, you know, make sure you have a pick you're really comfortable with, and remember that gravity is your friend.
I didn't know the pick was so important for that.
Yeah, it is. I think.
Okay.
It can't be too soft. It can't be too hard, and let gravity be your friend. So let your hand fall through the motion as opposed to push through, let it fall through.
Oh, that's interesting. I find ascending runs to be much easier than descending runs, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
They are, right?
Oh yeah,
100%.
100%.
Since we're already calling out brands, I'm using these. These are 2 millimeter. These are called chicken picks. They have beveled edges. They're crazy. So they have the shape of a Jazz 3, but beveled edges, and they're made out of a material that just does not age, really. You know, it doesn't wear off.
Yeah.
And it's a very fast pick. It's very easy. It slides very easy, smoothly over the string. So it's a little bit of a cheat code, if you will. It's a lot harder to do it with the Tortex, but you know, that's yes.
Yeah, that looks like a great pick. Yeah. I used to, you know, the reason I started using Tortex was because they last.
Yeah.
That's why I got them. And they just turned out to be really cool. Because I always use a Fender heavy pick, which is my favorite. But I go through one song, I destroy them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't give free picks. You know, I can't get them for free. It's too expensive. So I just went to Tortex because they last forever. So
okay, maybe 2 more questions, then we're done. Your favorite speaker type, I guess, meaning greenbacks, V30, something like that. What's best with your plexis or like EL34 amps?
My vintage 30s.
Same.
Amazing. They work with everything.
Same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge greenback fan. The problem I find with the 25 waters, I feel like the problem with those speakers is when you just tune down just a little bit, they lose all the definition in the low end because they're just not powerful enough. Yeah. And the V30s stay so strong. They're so precise.
Yeah, they're very, very efficient speakers. Yeah.
I've gotten to a point. I've listened to V30s so much they kind of sound neutral to me, which they are not. But
Right.
to me, like SM57s, we've heard it so much. This is flat, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. And speakers, you kind of have to get lucky with. I have my main cabinet is a Bogner 412 loaded with V30s, and I spent hours with a microphone with a 57 going over each speaker and recording and moving it here and here and here and all over all 4 speakers until I found the right speaker, the right sweet spot, and then I just put a little nail polish mark on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because every speaker's different. So, but I find V30s overall the best, but I just happen to have a really great 412 with really awesome sounding speakers that everything sounds good on. So yeah, that's what I like.
That's great. I feel like even in the same cab, the speakers are so different sometimes. And I think it's also what I noticed was slant cabinets are a little different too than straight cabinets. Just a little, there's just a bit of a difference sometimes. And I usually have a favorite speaker marked on my cabinet as well when I'm using cabinets, which is not that often these days, to be honest.
Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to ask you this earlier, but I forgot about it. When you mentioned the Bogners and you're a friend of the Bogner brand and all these things, I'm such a fan of the Blue Channel Ecstasy.
Yeah.
Such a fan. How in the world did that get out of fashion? You don't see much talk about Bogner Ecstasies anymore. How is that? I mean, it's to me, the Blue Channel Ecstasy is still one of the best guitar sounds ever.
Yeah.
Used for everything, right?
Oh yeah. I actually, for years, I toured with that Ecstasy pedal, the blue Ecstasy pedal.
Yeah, man, it's good.
Yeah, I used it in front of Marshalls all the time. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, Bogner is Reinhold is he's an innovator.
He's a wild dude, right?
He's a wild dude. Yeah, he's an innovator. He's an artist, and he's not gonna rest on any laurel. He's not gonna just go, okay, well, yeah, this is great. He's always gonna try find something new to do. He's always gonna try and make things better, and he just goes on to let's try this. Like I just did a video of this new Bogner JB45. It's like a 30-watt amp, but with 2 KT66s in it.
Sounds interesting.
It's phenomenal, man. It's so good.
How is that not in your top 3?
Well, I mean, it could be. It could be. If we were doing low wattage amps, then that would probably be my
okay. It's on the lower side.
Yeah, it's like 30, 40 watts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's that would probably be my go-to amp for lower wattage amps. That JB45, fucking killer amp.
It's really crazy.
Cool. Yeah.
Did you prefer the Helios to the Ecstasy?
No.
Okay. Because I think the Helios does sound great, but the Ecstasy is, to me, there's something timeless about that. I mean, the mid-range it's like such a woody sounding amp.
Exactly.
And I don't understand why there isn't more Ecstasies in the world. I mean, why aren't there more players playing, a little crazy?
Yeah, the Helios is killer, but the thing with the Bogner amps is they fight you. They sound great, but they fight you.
In what way?
It's just unforgiving. It's just if you're not going in, it's like you're going in to tame a lion or something. If you're not 100% just on your, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It won't be forgiving. Like when you have a great amp and you've got the right saturation and you got the right volume, it's just so easy, Bogner amps aren't like that. You have to fight. You have to fight to make it do what it does. And
that's true. Yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So last thing about this, and then we close this out. So I had, it was one of my worst blunders ever. So I'm 19 years old, and I found this super good deal on a used Bogner Shiva. And not only was it a Bogner Shiva, it was one of the very first Bogner Shivas, those with the silver panels. So I guess only the first 200 or so, maybe more, but don't quote me on that, maybe 200 or so had silver panes, and they sounded significantly different than the later ones. The stock Shivas with the green panels, the back panels are green nowadays.
Yeah.
It sounded amazing. It had this one hiccup where you had to have a stereo cable to get the foot switch going, but the amp sounded amazing. It was so good. Like, it had the Shiva it's like a cheat code, because you have this great JCM 800 kind of gain channel, and you have this Fenderish kind of clean channel, which is this awesome clean channel, man. And I was 18 or 19 or something, and then I went into a phase of I need a Marshall again, so I sold the Bogner Shiva, and what I got for that was the worst Marshall I've ever played. It was the Marshall Vintage Modern. I hated that thing, man. Did you ever play that one? Did you like it?
I did. I liked it, but the thing was, I tried it for the first time at the NAMM show when they first released it. And I asked the guy who was demonstrating it, I said, will this work with any cabinet, or does it have to be with this specific cabinet? And he looked at me like, yeah, he was like, you dick. And I was like, sorry. And he's like, yeah, you have to get this cabinet. And I was like, well, you know,
fuck,
no good.
It doesn't. No.
Yeah.
I actually, to be honest, it's funny. I got the amp, I got the Vintage Modern, I played it, and I heard the sound. I was convinced it was broken.
Yeah.
So I drove to an amp tech and had it checked out. And he was like, your amp is totally fine. I'm like, that's the sound? I wasn't really happy with it, because to me it didn't make sense. It had the normal gain, treble gain thing. The effects loop was absolutely atrocious, and I need my effects loop because I use a lot of delays.
Sure.
So the Bogner Shiva was gone. I would pay a lot of money to have it back now, because I loved it. Okay. Last question. We're already over time here, dog, and I want to be respectful with your time. Last amp, I already know the answer, but I'm still gonna ask it. LP from 54 asks, will analog amps eventually die? In brackets, with AI and modelers getting better, etc.
Oh my God. Will they eventually die?
What's your opinion?
Yeah, they will.
You think so?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
I don't want it to, but I think it will. I mean, look, a lot of gigs I've been doing in the last 10 years have been amps off stage. Okay. So you don't have anything on stage. So I bring out, all my gear or whatever. They fly my gear out, and my cabinet is under the stage. It's in an ISO box miles away. So there's no interaction with the amplifier. It's all coming through your in-ears. It's like, what's the point? I think it's all moving towards that now. Yeah. Definitely in like the heavy metal world, it's definitely, they're going direct now, because I think the direct recording stuff sounds great for metal. They haven't gotten it good enough yet for blues and classic rock. It's not there yet. For metal, you want to see the Helix and the Cortex and all those guys. They're all metal guys. There's very few classic rock guys that are using this going, oh, this is the shit. It's just not happening yet. But I think it will at some point. And I know a lot of guys, the Def Leppard guys are all direct now. My buddies at Buck Cherry are all direct now. Yeah, I think they're gonna go bye-bye.
Yeah, I agree to some extent. Whenever, there's these productions where you're getting on tour, and at least in Germany and in Europe, there's campers everywhere. They just have it in their production. You don't have to bring anything. It's like, I was asking a couple of years ago, hey, should I bring amps? And they were like, no, just bring your USB stick and your guitars. I'm like, okay, why is that? We have campers here. I don't even have to bring my camper. No. We have it for bass, 2 guitars. It's fine. And that's everywhere. I mean, a couple of years ago, I saw Sum 41 so famous for the JCM 800 tone playing through Kempers.
Yeah.
Justin Derrico with Pink last year played Fractal, the Fractal FM9.
Yeah.
I have a Fractal FM9 here. I have it since 2 weeks. It's amazing. It sounds really, really good. Like, especially the Plexi models sound really, really good. And then you see, like, even Rival Sons now touring with Line 6 Helixes now. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I get it. But on the other hand, as long as I'm alive, there will be, right here, there will be a 1987 Marshall Silver Jubilee 2550 50 watt right here.
Wow. You got one, huh? Wow.
I bought one in 2010 for an absolute bargain. But it's over here. I almost blew it last week because I didn't have a speaker cabinet hooked up. So I almost blew the output transformer. I didn't, but I had a lot of sleepless nights. And as long as I think they will somehow survive in living rooms or like home studios.
Sure.
Like you will always have like a Friedman or a Metropolous.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Same with me. But yeah, like in the professional sphere, I guess they will go extinct at some point. It's gonna take a while, but
I have the Fender Tone Master, which is pretty rad.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's really good.
All right. Check that out.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm moving away from the camper thing a little bit just because I feel like they need an update. And the fractal stuff, my God, have you tried it? It's so
it's really good.
Oh man, you have to fiddle with the parameters and you have to have the time. But once you have the time, oh my God, there's a lot of things you can do. Jeez.
Well, you know what drives me crazy about this stuff, dude, is I get it sounding really good, and I've done this with Fractal and Kemper. I get it sounding really good through my speakers at a certain volume.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I turn it up and now it sounds like shit. And then I go, well, what if I bring this to a gig? How do I know it's going to sound good in their PA? Maybe it'll sound like shit in there. I mean, how do you do it? I mean, I don't know how do you work this stuff?
That's true. I think there's a surprise element to bringing these things into the real world when you're gigging. That's for sure, because sometimes there's a weird thing going on in the mid-range. I always had that with Kempers. Like I had these profiles, they sounded perfect through my speakers here. I have like Atom audio speakers here. In my room, that's perfect. When I track in sessions, it's cool, it's fine. When you're in some like 3,000 seat venue, all of a sudden you're like, that is weird. It sounds super strange. And there's something just totally off.
Right.
I can't put my finger on it, but it is there for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other, definitely. And then the other thing I noticed with these digital things, when you stack these, it's not the same as when you're stacking amps. Like when you're stacking layers of guitars in a track, with a Kemper, something weird is adding up, and then sometimes I just for like a third track or something, I use the Kemper through just a preamp again, just so it has some analog warmth to it. Because something digital, which is strange, is just adding up when you're layering tracks. That only happens so if you're like layering 3, 4, 5 guitars in like a heavy scenario. I feel like that's when I notice it. It's not much, but it's definitely there, and I'm not used to it when I'm doing it with amps. It's not happening. So yeah.
Wow.
So maybe like 3% missing to real amps or something.
All right. Interesting.
Doug, I want to thank you so much. You're one of my absolute guitar heroes, and you were willing to come on this show on this admittedly still pretty small YouTube channel of mine that I'm building right now. But it's been amazing. I love it, and super grateful you've been here. And
I'm honored. Thank you, Joey. Thank you. You're a great player. I'm very honored. Very happy to get to talk to you. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doug. And I guess this is where we close off the podcast.